Hey Legend Crew, welcome back to another episode of Legend Ethics Shared Dreams. This guest over here, his name is Jon Fink. We've known each other for a few years. We actually met through Brendan. If you haven't seen his episode, he's episode number 2. Be sure to check him out, he's an awesome dude. But so we've known each other for a few years, and as long as I've known him, he's been going into different aspects of many things. So I'll let him take it over and introduce himself. Go to say where you are and everything like that.
Thanks, Lyndon. My name is Jon Fink. I grew up in LA, born and raised. I've always had a drive to chase dreams. I think everyone has something in them that kind of has a calling, if you will, towards a career path, a passion, a hobby, whatever it may be. And mine has always been creating some entity that would help people, in some facet of their lives.
I mean, that's the cool thing is, you've been working a lot of different aspects.
Yeah.
Because as long as I've known you, you've been doing a lot of things. You did acting as a child. You were doing some Bitcoin tradings. You were doing some car sales as well. You're going into real estate as well. And right now you're going to school. What are you studying in school right now?
Computer science.
Computer science. Jeez. Okay. Is there like a cookie jar you don't have your fingers in? It's like,
I don't like to sit complacent. To me, I think it's not necessarily about the result. I actually think it's more so like you don't necessarily need in order to feel accomplished, you don't necessarily need to achieve this everlasting legacy to the world. I actually think it's more personal growth.
Absolutely.
And so, with me dabbling in a bunch of different things, I've discovered what I'm truly passionate about. But it took a long time to kind of dabble with a bunch of things to figure that out. So initially, I did acting and modeling, as a kid, worked at Apparel and stuff like that. And as I grew up, I got more into the business sector. So I worked at an accounting firm, and from there, I tried starting my first company, which was dog walking. This was pre-WAG. And so did that for a little bit. And then I started, when I went to college, I initially started at Santa Monica College for business. And I started an event coordinating company where I would basically coordinate events for college students. And I teamed up with the UCLA Bruin Party Network.
Oh, wow.
Which was ran by Victor. Anyway, it's irrelevant. I did that for a couple years. Ended up, doing fairly well in it.
Yeah. It's pretty cool in that, like you said, we all have those dreams that we have growing up. It's almost like an innate feeling, like this intuitive feeling that you have, and you can't even describe it really. It's just there.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about each guest star that we've had on the show so far is they all have that intuitive winner legend mindset. You can just see it when you're watching them. They have that passion and that drive. And so, what kind of inspired? You kind of talked about it so far, but what really, pushed you to and inspired you into this? Personal growth, like you said, but
where I ended up now is actually due to after I steered away from the event coordinating, I started on a concept that involved a lot of web development and coding, and I would spend hours upon hours sitting at a Starbucks or anywhere that had Wi-Fi just to try to launch this thing.
That's awesome.
And that's actually where I meant to be.
Okay.
And so I did that for a couple years, and I never felt confident enough to officially release it into the world, and I always regretted it, always. And but that passion still lingered. I've always been financially driven. So I had a mentor that I met a couple years ago that introduced me to the world of saving and the financial mindset that you need to have in order to grow and become financially stable.
Yeah.
And so, working alongside him, I got into business-to-business sales, selling for a restaurant and hotel distribution company. I mean, I've done all sorts of things.
It goes on and on.
But ultimately, I've always felt like the sales aspect, the money hungry aspect, it wasn't as rewarding as I thought it would be. I mean, I ended up saving what some would consider a significant amount of money, and I didn't feel like it was much.
Yeah.
I was still longing for something.
Well, I love that you brought up the personal growth aspect then, because I mean, you're trying all these different aspects, but I mean, you're not going to find out really what your passion is or what you're passionate about until you try these different aspects.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. And that's why I don't even have him saved in my phone as Jon Fink. I have him saved as John, B's mentor. You know, because that's the way I've always seen you. I mean, because you're all, and whenever we see you, I mean, you came over for Thanksgiving this past year. I mean, we've hung out a few times outside of this. I mean, for New Year's. And
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
But I mean, whenever we get in touch, we're always talking about new avenues that we're pursuing and stuff like that. And you've always been so enlightening in that regard. You always have so much to share, and always very knowledgeable too, which is very key. I mean, I don't want to say, I mean, certain mentors that there are frauds or whichever, but I'm just saying John is definitely very knowledgeable. I mean, whatever he goes after, he goes at it like wholeheartedly, and he's knowledgeable about it. I mean, he's willing to share that information with you, which is freaking awesome.
I appreciate that.
So what has been your biggest obstacle going into these different ventures? I mean, what has been one of your biggest obstacles?
I mean, it's a fine line between self-drive and also, you know, the reality of life, because everyone deals with different issues, whether it's familial or relationships or financial pressures. You could get pissed off and say the wrong thing, and it could throw off your whole day. You know, like, I think the day-to-day aspect is, you know, you have to learn to train your mind to kind of steer clear of negative thoughts.
Absolutely.
And surround yourself with people, which is why I
like-minded people.
Yeah, which is why I support this project, because it's really putting together people who are not necessarily where they ultimately want to be, but are striving to get there.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that was, I'd never seen it from that perspective before. I mean, I guess it was maybe perhaps subconscious that I started doing this project where I was interviewing, quote, the dreamers, the people who hadn't reached that, I mean, who haven't made it yet, and are telling their stories. And you brought that up today at lunch where you were saying, I mean, that's a cool aspect of the show, and I hadn't necessarily realized it from that point of view. But I mean, I do appreciate you pointing that out. I mean, that's the way I'd like to keep this show and continue catering that show to the dreamers. I mean, to everyone who's still pursuing their dreams and they're not where they want to be yet. But I mean, that's because, like you said, we all have obstacles, we all have our issues, we all have different setbacks that we might face chasing our dreams. But what I love about this show, and that's why I watch these episodes on rewatch so many times, is that when I feel tired or when I feel like I can't do this or can't do that, there are other people out there chasing their dreams and doing so wholeheartedly, and they're going through the same exact obstacles, going through the same type of problems and such. And if they can do it, why can't I?
Absolutely.
Kind of thing, you know. And so I find them so incredibly inspirational, and that's why, I mean, I appreciate you so much being on this show.
Of course, yeah.
All the future episodes that I have on here, I mean, I'm so looking forward to them.
One thing that I think about a lot when I'm kind of thinking about how tired I am or having a bad day is, I once watched, I happen to watch a lot of inspirational speakers and motivational speakers, and one of the talks I listened to was talking about how badly do you want it, and if you want it bad enough, you'll want it more than you breathe.
Yeah.
Because in order to breathe, you need to have it. Yeah. And it's a great talk. Maybe I can share the link with you.
Oh, so definitely. We'll put in the link in the description. I mean, that'd be awesome.
But to that point, I started, I was kind of going through a phase where I was just left the sales position and ended up getting into Instacart, which was back then this new startup. At this point, they're worth a couple billion and nationwide. But when I started doing that, I was working maybe 12 to 14 hour shifts, nonstop. But it was, it was a lot of physical labor. I didn't feel mentally stimulated, but I was definitely running around.
That's awesome.
And I had days where 6 hours into my shift and another 6 to go, I was like, I'm exhausted, and having to do that 14 days straight, let's say, without a day off. There are days where you just really want to stop, and you just have to keep telling yourself, like, think about, it's the military mentality. It's like, I'm not giving myself a choice. Like,
Absolutely.
This is my objective, this is what needs to get done. And when you have that drive, I actually think you're able to accomplish more than you initially think.
I mean, that's 100% without a doubt. Wishful thinking is not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, yes, it's a positive mindset, but it's an inactive mindset. The wishful thinking is just the first step. You have to be willing to get out there and do it as well.
Absolutely.
And I think it was Rachel, one of my earlier episodes, who brought up what she thinks is helpful is remembering your why. Like, why am I doing this? When you remember your why, you'll find a way. And I love the way she put it. I mean, because it makes sense. I mean, if you're truly passionate about whichever aspect or whichever dream you're going after, you will find a why, and then you'll find a way.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, I know as I'm kind of relaying my story, I know I've dabbled in a lot, and some people may say, oh, well, you just don't have a clear path. But again, I didn't have a clear path.
Yeah.
That's why I dabbled in so many things.
Yeah.
And whether or not I have a clear path now, we'll see. But
Absolutely.
But I do think that I'm every step along the way I've grown.
Absolutely, 100%.
I've learned new skills. I've learned how to persevere through obstacles, and I've grown mentally, and I've met a whole bunch of people.
Networking, everything.
Yeah. Overall, it's everyone has their own path. But
Absolutely.
I'm not reluctant to say I enjoy mine.
Well, that's the thing too. It's better to do it now rather than regret it later.
Yeah.
And it's not one of those going back to the fab of hashtag YOLO. I mean, screw that. I mean, because that was taken out of proportion.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it's died down considerably
Yeah.
since. I mean, I had enough of that. But it's
one thing that if kind of fulfills me, if not necessarily mentally, but if I can say soulfully, is mentorship, and not to be a figure to somebody to look up to, but more so as friendly advice, to take my experiences from and the things I've learned from my mentors and pass that along to other people, to share my mistakes, share my failures, and my successes, and how I've ended up where I am, and if they can take something away from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what's great about these episodes. So, I mean, what's great is I'm going to be linking his social media, his phone number, his home address, his private email. I'm just kidding.
It's time for me to move.
Yeah. No, I'll be linking his social media in the description below, so you can reach out to him. I mean, every venture that he's gone into, be sure to reach out to him, because he has a lot of knowledge that he can share, and he's willing to share, which is amazing. And it's all through experience, as he says. I mean, he's researched it, he's done it, and he's willing to share that information, which is great. So I mean, that's freaking awesome, brother. I mean, there's very few people who wholeheartedly want to help other people like that. So that's very awesome.
Thank you.
But yeah, so before we wrap up this episode, what's a final thought, if you have any that you'd like to share?
I'd say just stay dedicated, stay true to who you are. There may be people that come into your life, temporarily, just to teach you a life lesson, and take those experiences and try to instill in you the values that you want to share on to other people, and keep striving, keep going for it.
That's awesome. That's a perfect way to end this episode. I mean, very wise words of wisdom right there. I appreciate it. So yeah, let's wrap this up for this episode of Legend Ethics Shared Dream, guys. Again, this was Jon Fink. Like I said, I'll be posting on the social media below, so you can contact him, reach out to him. A lot of knowledge to share. And I'll be linking my social media below, so you can check out my acting career and the Legend Ethics, different styles and t-shirts that are out there now. It's trying to expand it a little bit. That's a new t-shirt design right there. Hope you guys like it. And yeah, let's keep it going, guys. Let's build the Legend Crew. Let's keep it going.